the darkness from these
So,
flames.
I believe at this point, many of you have already seen some Ashen gameplay. And by this point, the game has been out for over a day now. And many of you hardcore fans who have been keeping tabs on this game are probably wondering at this point some background knowledge on the game, some lore, some, speculative ideas that are flowing through the community at this point, the small niche community of Ashen players. So, as we can see from some of the gameplay and that you guys have played, and in the background, the Ashen is very symbolic to what inspired this game in the first place. You know, lots of people may dislike my comparison, but it feels reminiscent to Dark Souls in a way, to how the Age of Light came to a close, and following that closing, darkness came, and there would be much famine, destruction, wars raging out amongst man due to the Ashen falling after eons of servitude is now dead. And the interesting part about it is how the game is represented in nine realms, and how the light is its main focus in keeping it well balanced and alive, with lots of life everywhere. And only the Ashen has the ability and power to really solidify the light and keep it continuously exposing all nine realms. But after eons of time, the Ashen did not beat the greatest enemy. And that greatest enemy is time. The Ashen fell. And in its dying moments, so was everything around it was also dying. And after a couple more eons, the Ashen was finally drawing on its last few breaths. And the last three were known as the Golden Ages of Light. The first brought on three creatures of the Dark Flames. The second was the coming of the Titans, who revered the light. And the third, most likely the most devastating one, Age of Man. Everybody to this point knew that after the Ashen drew his last breath, that there would be destruction, chaos, and ultimate sacrifice amongst man. And after man, there would be darkness. Darkness would engulf all of the nine realms, and it would stay like this for a long, long time until somebody else worthy enough of obtaining this power to further spread the light to the nine realms. And in this game, the Ashen must get up to that point in order to continue the cycle that has been started, in order to keep the nine realms at balance and filled with life and light. As darkness engulfs, you can see the remains of what used to be a great civilization. You can see how desolate the world looks. The arrows stuck into the ground wherever you go, showing battles that could have taken place at the very location you were walking upon. The very floor was once covered with men and women, fighting in wars raging upon due to the Ashen that has fallen. And each corpse you search for items demonstrates that this was once a person who also ventured this far and eventually met their demise. As you venture through the world, you are encountered with lots of mobs that show pure agony and just self-defense, wanting to protect themselves due to them witnessing the final moments in what they believed were their lives, witnessing how bad and devastating the wars were that raged amongst men and women, showing that the prophecy was indeed true, that after man there would be darkness, and with darkness comes destruction, and with destruction comes chaos. And with these ideas coming into play and coming into fruition, you, the player, are placed in this barren wasteland in order to find yourself, in order to somehow carry on the mantle of becoming the Ashen. And alongside you, your faithful friend, who joins you along for the ride in order to aid you in this mission. He stays by your side, and no matter where you are, will always be there for you. You are thrown into a cave, and after that, you are not told anything about who you are, where you come from, and why you've been selected. It is your task to take on the mantle and to really solidify your position in this game. The art style is very unique, and instead of coming and trying to aim for the realistic appeal to immerse the audience into, the Ashen and you are one. You must unfold together and try to find yourself, to see if you are worthy of continuing and becoming the Ashen one. So guys, at this point, I would believe that once you're thrown into the opening area, it really shows how, how desolate this place is. There's only, rabbits, some deer walking around, some of the wildlife that would remain in the event of a destruction, a war. After man is finally sent into this destruction phase due to the fact that the Ashen had fallen, and in the prophecy it foretold that darkness would reign upon man after the Ashen drew its last breath. So far, you are the one in control. You are the one to tell the story and to continue what is going to happen. Will you take on the position of being the Ashen and spread the light once again, as it once was, to all 9 realms? Or will you fall in demise, and darkness engulfs the world and the rest of the 9 realms for all eternity? This landscape in the beginning also shows how this was a battlefield. This took place and was significant. It wasn't just some random location. It meant something to these people. It meant that this was either a peaceful territory, a possible civilization, a small town with lots of people once living here, with much, much fresher vegetation than what's left. But instead, you find arrows sticking out of the ground, potentially that were fired from the opposing side, depending on which perspective you're looking at. Arrows riddle the place. There's one everywhere. And the remaining people are simply there to, you know, defend themselves. They have nothing to live for. They all have beards and are old, scrawny, because they lack any food. All they know is survival for themselves. And all that's left is mere dust, bones, and arrows, signifying that this place was once a terrible war zone that ended in terrible, terrible consequences. And now you are to traverse the land knowing that people once lived here. So, guys, that's my whole take on it. I really hope you understand where I'm coming from. I am a Dark Souls player, as many of you who probably bought this game were also. I played the games in a different order compared to what other people usually do, but my order went Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 3, and then Bloodborne. And I feel like going into Bloodborne, I was expecting like the typical Souls formula of, dodging timely and getting used to the bosses since they were straightforward. But Bloodborne was a completely new take on the Dark Souls formula. And that's what made it so unique and so invigorating and scary, and probably one of the most terrifying video games to ever surface. And Dark Souls franchise was also a pivotal moment in gaming, because it showed how, despite having an actual background knowledge on how to play and any knowledge on your character himself, you can still develop your own story, have a solid connection with the environment, you know, try to put pieces together that were left purposefully open in order for the player to try and figure out why things are the way they are. And I feel like Ashen is the closest game to really capture this in a way where it doesn't feel like it's completely ripped off or unoriginal. Rather, this game feels so familiar, yet the whole art style direction took a different turn. And what it looks like to be working, because this game is what is captivating me at the moment. It's really driving me to continue further on and not give up, just because of how much weight is on my shoulders. There's so much to this game that we don't know yet. There's so much lore that we must continue to explore in order to understand. And this is only the first, couple levels. Alright guys, I really hope you enjoyed today's video. Please stay tuned for part 2 coming out soon. There's more lore coming out for you guys as well, so stay tuned for that. I hope you all enjoyed, and have a good day.